Hallelujah. 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 YarahBatYah, Father, Torah, thank you so much for your presence with us, Father. Thank you so much for your provision over us, your protection over us, Father, in the times that we're in right now, Father. We thank you that we can trust in you, that we can rely on you, that we can look to you and call on you, Father, and know that you hear us, Father. Know that you move on our behalf, Father. I thank you for this time and this space tonight. I thank you for this opportunity to come together in your presence, Father. You said where 2 or 3 are gathered in your name, Father, that you are in our midst. So I thank you, Father, that you are here with us in our midst right now, Father, as we lift you up, Father, as we dig into your word tonight, Father. I thank you that you will be with us as we seek to grow in you, seek to know more of you, seek to walk in your ways, Father. Open our eyes, Father, so we can see wondrous things in your word tonight, Father. Show us our hearts. Show us your heart. I thank you for each person that's on the call, each person that was on their way to get on the call, Father, that they would get here safely, if it be your will, Father, that they will make it here and hear a word that you would have us to hear tonight, Father. I thank you that we'll decrease in our understanding, Father, in our ideas, Father, but that we'll allow your word and your way to increase in our midst, Father. I thank you for this time and this space. We lift you up, Father, in the name of your Son, Yahusha HaMashiach. Amen and hallelujah.
Amen.
Let a few other people in the room that are waiting. Shalom. Shalom, sis. Shalom, sis. I don't think her audio is connected. All right, I'll give her a minute for her audio to connect. All right. All right, so tonight we are dealing with the topic is armoring up. And so we've been building up. So this is part like 7 right now. So we've gone through dealing with, minimize this. We've gone through talking about this awakening and waking up, and how the Most High has been dealing with his people and waking his people up, and how he's been taking us through that process of coming out of darkness, coming out of sleep, and waking up. And we talked about, as we go through this process, that there's a cleansing that we have to go through, that there's a washing that we've had to go through. And we talked about that and went through that process. So as the Most High is washing us and cleansing us, that we talked last week about how the fact that he's clothing us. So he's clothing us and covering us in Yahusha. So he's covering us and clothing us in righteousness. So we talked about that last week and talked about that process of that. And I want to reiterate. So we talked about last week, we dealt with righteousness, and we dealt with we went through the Torah of the scriptures that deals with us walking in righteousness. Okay, there we go. Shalom, sis. Welcome on the call.
Shalom, shalom.
Right. We're just getting started. So we talked about righteousness, and we talked about the Torah, and we talked about how our obedience in keeping the Torah. Keeping it is part of our righteousness. So our righteousness comes out of that. Then we also talked about how Yahusha is our righteousness. So we talked about those 2 elements last week. And I just want to reiterate that our righteousness is required, but it's not a sufficient covering without Yahusha. So our righteousness is required. So we talked about how Adam and Hawa, how they tried to clothe and cover themselves with fig leaves, their own righteousness, their own idea of what it was to cover themselves after they had sinned. And the Most High, that was not sufficient to be able to continue and walking with the Most High. That's why they hid themselves, because they weren't yet in right standing. And the Most High had to make that sacrifice, and through the shedding of blood, there was remission of sin. So the Most High had to cover them. He had to make that sacrifice, and then clothe them with the skins of the animals. So in that, he was giving us this pattern. So while we are required to walk in his righteousness, it is not completely sufficient until we've come into his righteousness, because it takes the spotless lamb. It takes the one who was without spot or blemish to be able to completely, it took that to completely perfect that righteousness. So the two go hand in hand. And we talked a little bit last week about how we end up kind of in this competition between the different elements of Yah. We talked about, I still have it on the board here, how we have Yahusha, Messiah, we have the Ruach, we have his Torah, we have, and then we have it all in this Hebrew context, in the culture. So we talked about how a lot of times in this walk, we end up putting these things in competition with each other when they're not, when there's no competition. The Most High is one, he's a God, he's united. So there's no competition between, do we put more emphasis on the Torah or on Yahusha, or do we get more into the Hebrew, or do we focus more on the Ruach? We do this through our religion, through our religious upbringing and ways. We end up having this tug of war, when in the Most High, it is all one. There's no tug of war. There's no battle between Yahusha and the Torah. It's all united. It's all one. So, as we're dealing with that, we look at the fact that we are to walk in the Torah. We are to understand his word based on the culture and context that the Most High gave it to us in, right? So we're to walk in it based on its proper context. We're to walk in his Torah, his ways, his instructions, his teaching. And that is our righteousness. But Yahusha has completed the righteousness of Yah. So we take on the wholeness of it. There's no competition between it. It's all one. So as he gathers our minds so that we can understand how to walk in it. And that's what he's trying to get us to understand. How do we walk in this? All right. So we've gone through this process talking about the waking up, cleaning and cleansing ourselves. That's what we talked about, clothing ourselves and dressing up. So part 4 of this process of the series is dealing with gearing up. So that's what we're going to get into tonight. And we're going to kind of revisit a little bit of the clothing part, the being clothed, and how that translates over to us being geared up and ready for where the Most High is taking us. All right. So I'm going to go through quite a few scriptures tonight. So I think I'm going to pull up, let's see. I think I'll pull it up on here so that you can see. My screen share. Change my screen share. Take that off for a minute. And I'll pull this up. Okay. All right. I'm going to start off with Deuteronomy chapter 31. So you can follow along with the screen, or you can follow along with your scripts if you have it, or you can hopefully my computer will cooperate. Deuteronomy. And if it starts to go slow, we'll switch up here. All right. So I'm going to start off with Deuteronomy chapter 31. And I'm going to start with verse 1. Okay, so this is Moshe. This is Moses, Moshe. It says, and Moshe went and spoke these words to all Yisrael. And he said to them, I am 120 years old today. I'm no longer able to go out and come in. And Yahuah has said to me, you do not pass over the Jordan, Yarden. Yahuah, your Elohim himself is passing over before you. He shall destroy these nations from before you, and you possess them. Yahushua himself is passing over before you, as Yahuah has spoken. And Yahuah shall do to them as he did to Sihon and to Og, the sovereigns of the Amorites in their land, when he destroyed them. And Yahuah shall give them over to you, and you shall do to them according to all the command which I commanded you. Be strong and courageous. Do not fear, nor be afraid of them. For it is Yahuah, your Elohim, who is going with you. He does not fail you, nor forsake you. Okay? And Moshe called Yehoshua and said to him before the eyes of all Yisrael, be strong and courageous, for you are going with this people to the land which Yahuah has sworn to their fathers to give them. and you are to let them inherit. And it is Yahuah who is going before you. He himself is with you. He does not fail you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be discouraged. So this is Moshe. This is Moses. He's getting the people ready. He's not going to pass over. The Most High told him that he couldn't go because of him smiting the rock. So he's preparing them to pass over. Joshua is going to be the one that's going to take them over to the land. So he's sharing with them what they need to know, because they're going to encounter physical battles when they enter into this land. So the battles that they're going to encounter battles. There's going to be people in the land. They're going to have to drive these people out, these nations that are there, so that they can take possession of this land that the Most High has promised, right? So he says in verse 3, he said, Yahuah, your Elohim himself is passing over before you. He shall destroy these nations from before you, and you possess them. So this is a key point here. And down in verse 5, he says, and Yahuah shall give them over to you, and you shall do to them according to all the command which I've commanded you. So they physically have a part to play, right? So they physically have to go into the land. They have to be strong and courageous and walk into this place the Most High is bringing them to. But what Moshe is trying to tell them is that Yahuah is going to be with them. And he's going to pass before them, and he's going to be the one that's going to cause them to be victorious. He's the one that's going before them, and it's him that's going to cause them to be victorious. So we know that the Most High was, at this point in time, was with Yisrael. He fought their battles. They were going to the land, and as long as the people of Yisrael were with the Most High, were walking in righteousness, walking in righteous ways, then he went before them and fought the battles for them. All right. So I'm going to go a couple chapters over to Deuteronomy 28. All right, 28, and I'm going to drop down. So we know that this is the chapter that deals with the blessings and the curses. And I'm going to drop down to about, verse. So we know that this starts to list all of the things that's going to happen to Yisrael if our people do not keep the commands of the Most High Yah. And we know that our people did not keep the commands of the Most High Yah. So we came into a place as a nation that we are under these curses. So I'll read just verse 25. It says, Yahuah causes you to be defeated before your enemies. You go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. And you shall become a horror to all the reigns, all the kingdoms of the earth. So as part of this, as part of the curses, it says that while you were in obedience, Yahuah would go before the people and they would be victorious. But he says, once you come up under these curses, you're going to be defeated before your enemies. So we saw this all through the scriptures. You see it in the book of Judges, that whenever Israel was not in right standing with the Most High, they would go to battle and then they would lose. We see it all through the scriptures. And it's like, what happened? Well, Yahuah was not with them because they were not in right standing with the Most High. So it says, Yahuah causes you to be defeated before your enemies. You go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. So this is a dilemma, right? This is a dilemma. So we know that the Most High will fight on the behalf of us as a nation. But when we fell under these curses, he said that I'm going to basically back up and you're going to be defeated. We've seen this. We've come up under all kinds of captivities. Up until this last captivity here, we've come up under these captivities because as a nation, the Most High has backed off, and he's allowed our enemies to rule over us, to be victorious over us, right? I'm gonna jump over to Deuteronomy chapter 30, 2 chapters over. And this version that I'm reading from is the scriptures. It's called the scriptures. I'm going to start here. Okay, so when the promise that the Most High gave us was, and it shall be when all these words come upon you, starting at verse 1, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before you, and you shall bring them back to your heart among all the Gentiles where Yahuah, your Elohim, drives you. And shall turn back to Yahuah, your Elohim, and obey his voice according to all that I command you today, with all your heart, with all your being, you and your children. Then Yahuah your Elohim shall turn back your captivity and shall have compassion on you. And he shall turn back and gather you from all the peoples where Yahuah your Elohim has scattered you. If any of you are driven to the farthest parts under the heavens, from there Yahuah your Elohim does gather you, and from there does he take you. And Yahuah your Elohim shall bring you to the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it, and he shall do good to you and increase you more than your fathers. So the Most High gave this promise. Okay. The Most High gave this promise. Someone just come into the room. Shalom, Brother Antonio, if you made it in the room. I think you just came in. So the Most High made this promise to us that, yes, you're gonna I'm setting before you these blessings and curses. If you stay in the blessings, then I'm going to drive out your enemies. If you end up under these curses, I'm going to let your enemies overtake you. But it's going to come a time when you're going to turn back, and as a nation, I'm going to fight once again on your behalf. I'm going to fight again on your behalf and come against your enemies, right? So as a nation, this is the time that we're waiting for. We're waiting for the Most High to come and fight our battles for us. We're waiting for the Most High to come against our enemies and to put us back into together as a nation. So the remnant of us who the Most High is going to come and regather is going to be able to see this promise fulfilled as a nation. But in the meantime, we have this dilemma. We find ourselves in this dilemma because we are scattered all over the place. We're scattered in distant lands, and the Most High as a nation has allowed the enemy to overtake us. So we find ourselves in this dilemma where how do we deal with our battles, and how do we become victorious in Yahuah? How does Yahuah now fight our battles when he said as a nation that he's going to allow our enemies to overtake us? I'm going to turn to Revelations chapter 5. Excuse me, the internet is moving slowly. Revelations chapter 5. All right. I'm going to start at verse 1. And I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, having been sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong messenger proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and to loosen its seals?" And no one in the heaven or on the earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look at it. And I wept much because no one was found worthy to open and read the scroll or to look at it. And one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Yehudah, the root of David, overcame to open the scroll and to loosen its 7 seals." And I looked and saw in the midst of the throne and of the four living creatures and in the midst of the elders a lamb standing as having been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of Elohim sent out into all the earth. And he came and took the scroll out of the right hand of him sitting on the throne. And when he took the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and golden bowls filled with incense, which are the prayers of the set-apart ones. And they sang a renewed song, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain and have redeemed us to Elohim by your blood, out of every tribe and tongue and people and nation, and made us sovereigns or kings and priests to our Elohim, and we shall reign upon the earth." Hallelujah. All right, so this is the vision, and so this is talking about Yahusha, of course. So it's saying that who was found worthy to be able to open up these seals, and no one was found except for the Lion of the tribe of Yehudah, the root of David. It says because he overcame and because he was slain as the lamb, that he was able to take the scroll. He was found worthy to be able to take the scroll. So what the Most High did was out of our people, out of the tribe of Yehudah, the tribe of Judah, he found one that was worthy. Yahusha Messiah was found worthy, and was able to redeem us. We talked a little bit last week about being the blood of Yahusha, and how that was applied, and how that's the part of that cleansing process that we go through, right? So Yehuda was so he was found worthy. Yahusha was found worthy to be able to fill in this gap for us. So how are we victorious in this scattered place? Yahusha, when he came, there was a scattering that took place. We had already gone through these different captivities and scattering, and then after him, we went off into captivity. After 70 AD, we were cast off into another captivity. We found ourselves scattered again. We just coming to the end of this 400 years now. So the Most High knew that during this time, that he was going to have to be with us in a different way, because we're not together as a nation, right? So through Yahusha, we talked last week about how Yahusha sent the Ruach. He sent his Ruach down, right? So, and Yahusha said, I'm not going to leave you alone. I will be with you to the end of the age. Yahuwah said that I will not leave you nor forsake you. So through Yahusha, through the Ruach, now we're able to have this access. We're able to have victory in Yahuwah through this way that he made, through this redemption. So I'm gonna go to Colossians chapter 3. I don't know why it's moving so slow. Alrighty. All right, Colossians chapter 3, verse 1. If then you were raised with Messiah, seek the matters which are above, where Messiah is seated at the right hand of Elohim. Mind the matters above, not those on the earth. But you have died, and your life has been hidden with Messiah in Elohim. And when Messiah, who is our life, is manifested, then you also shall be manifested with him in esteem. Hallelujah. Okay, so it says, for you have died and your life has been hidden with Messiah and Elohim. So we talked a little bit last week about, last 2 weeks about immersion, and how that's part of that immersion process. We're being buried. Our old life, our old man is going down, and we're coming back up to life through the Ruach in Yahusha. So it says, therefore you died and your life has been hidden with Messiah. Our life has been hidden with Messiah. That union has been made. That covenant that has been made in Messiah. So we've been hidden with Messiah in Elohim. So the Most High has hidden us. He has a hiding place for us. So even though we're scattered, we're all over the 4 corners of the earth, the Most High has created in Messiah. He's created a place to hide us, a place of refuge for us. He's made a place for us in this captivity, in this 2,000-year stretch from the time Messiah was here, this stretch that we're in. He's made a provision for us. Hallelujah. All right, I'm gonna go back to Revelations. I'm trying to get in. Okay. I'm going back to Revelation. Chapter 1, Revelation chapter 1. All right. And I'm gonna start at verse 4. Yochanan to the 7 assemblies that are in, is that verse 4? Yes, Yochanan to the 7 assemblies that are in Asia. Favor to you and peace from him who is, who was, and who is coming. That's talking about the Most High. And from the 7 spirits that are before his throne. And from Yahusha Messiah, the trustworthy witness, the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler of the sovereigns, the kings of the earth. To him who loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood. Who washed us from our sins in his own blood. So this is just to reiterate what we dealt with that washing process. When we talked about before we can be clothed, we have to be washed. When you take off dirty clothes, you got to wash and be cleansed before you put on the new garments. So we talked about this process of how we're washed. First of all, the blood is applied for that redemption. We talked about the washing, and as we are walking through this thing, we're washing in the word. We dealt with repentance. So this is just reiterating what we've been dealing with, that washing process, so that we can put on these new garments that the Most High is putting us in. Hallelujah. And it says in here that he's making us, we talked about the royal priesthood last week, and he said he's making us a, where am I at? In verse 6, he said he's made us sovereigns and priests to his Elohim. So it's reiterating what he's made us. What is he clothing us to be? He's clothing us to be a kingdom, a royal priesthood. So this is the garments that he's going to be putting us on. All right. So this is how the Most High is able to be with us despite the curse, despite the scattering. He's made this provision for us through Yahusha, through the Ruach. And I'm gonna go to Psalm 27. We're going to quite a few scriptures tonight, you guys. So, Psalm 27. And I thought that this would be faster, but it's going a little slow. Trying to get this website to come up, but it'll be all right. Psalm 27. I'm going to read, starting at verse 1. It says, Yahuah is my light and my deliverance. Whom shall I fear? Yahuah is the refuge of my life. What is a refuge? A refuge is something that hides you. A refuge is something that you run to that's able to hide you. Yahuah is the refuge of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evildoers come against me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they shall stumble and fall. So we know more than likely this is King Dawid who's writing this. So from the perspective of him being in a part of the royal priesthood, he's saying, Yahuah is my light and my deliverance. Whom shall I fear? He's my refuge, the refuge of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evildoers come against me, when battles come against me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries, those who are against me, my enemies, they shall stumble and fall. Though an army encamps against me, my heart does not fear. Though battle comes up against me, even then I will be trusting. One matter I asked of Yahuah, this I seek, to dwell in the house of Yahuah all the days of my life, to see the pleasantness of Yahuah, and to inquire in his Akal, his temple. For in the day of evil he hides me in his booth. In the covering of his tent he hides me. On a rock he raises me up. In the day of evil he hides me in his booth, in his tabernacle. In the covering of his tent he hides me. On a rock he raises me up. And now my head is lifted up above my enemies all around me. And I offer in his tent with shouts of joy. I sing I sing praises to Yahuah. Hear, O Yahuah, when I cry with my voice, and show me favor and answer me. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. All right, so he's saying as the Most High is his light, his refuge, the place he goes to. And he says something important here in verse 4. He says, the one thing that I seek is to dwell in the house of Yahuah, to dwell in his house all the days of my life, to inquire in his temple. It says in verse 5, in the day of evil, he hides me in his booth. In the covering of his tent, he hides me. So we know that when you're dealing with a tent, you're dealing with the Father is the protection of the tent. He's the provider of those who are in his tent. The husband is the covering of who covers you in his tent. So when we come to the Most High, King Dawid had this in mind. So he says, the one thing I seek is to dwell in the house of Yahuah, because I know that in this place I'm hidden. In this place there's refuge. In this place I'm covered and I'm protected. So I'm seeking with all in me to be in your tent, because I know that I'm protected here. Then he says, on a rock he raises me up. So remember this, we keep this language in mind. He raises me up. It says, now my head is lifted up above my enemies all around me. Why? Because I'm seated with him, with the Most High. And I offer in his tent with shouts of joy. So he's saying that there's safety in the house of Yahuah, and this is what he seeks. So he knows. So King Dawid knew that his power came from being in the house of Yahuah. All right. So I'm gonna go to Luke chapter 15. So when we enter into the house of Yahuah, so we're still talking about the same thing. So we know that we talked about how Yahusha is the door to the house. So we're entering into the Father's house, and Yahusha is the door to that house. Hallelujah. So when we come through Yahusha, we enter into the Father's house. King Dawid is saying, this is what I know I have within this house when I'm in this safe and protected place. So we're talking about this change of garments. So let's look at Luke chapter 15. Let me get there. I'm going to start at verse 11. This is dealing with the parable that's dealing with the prodigal son. And he said, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods falling to me. And he divided his livelihood between them. And not many days after, the younger son, having gathered all together, went away to a distant country, and there wasted his goods with loose living. And when he had spent all, there arose a severe scarcity of food throughout that land, and he began to be in need. And he went and joined himself to one of the citizens of that country, and sent him to his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to fill his stomach with the pods which the pigs were eating. 1 second. And no one gave to him. Verse 17, but having come to himself, he said, how many of the father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I'm perishing with hunger? Having risen, I shall go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against the heaven and before you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. And having risen, he went to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was moved with compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against the heaven and before you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. And bring the fattened calf here and slaughter it, and let us eat and rejoice. Because this son of mine was dead and is alive again, and he was lost and is found. They began to rejoice. Okay, so he says in verse 22, the father said to his servants, bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. So when he's returning from this place of sin, and he's coming back, and he's coming to the father and repenting and asking for the father to have mercy on him, and to bring him back into his house. And he's saying, I'll come as a servant, just let me back in your house. But the father has compassion on him and says, bring out the best robe and put it on him, put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. Okay, so we're going to see that there's a pattern, that there's an exchange that happens, that when you come back into the father's house, as he's coming back into his father's house, the father is ridding him of the clothes that he soiled in going out into the world, and he's putting on new garments on him. He's putting new garments on him. He says, bring out the best robe and put it on him, put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. So he's putting something on him. It's an exchange that's happening here. Okay, we're going to see this in a couple of places. I'm going to look at Zechariah chapter 3. And 1 second, somebody is trying to get on. Zechariah chapter 3. All right, and we'll start at verse 1. All right, start at verse 1. It says, and he showed me Yahusha, Joshua the high priest, standing before the messenger of Yahuah, and Satan standing at his right hand to be an adversary to him. And Yahuah said to Satan, Hashatan, the adversary, Yahuah rebuke you, Satan, who has chosen Jerusalem, who has chosen Jerusalem, rebuke you. Is this not a brand plucked from the fire? So first of all, notice that it was the Most High that dealt with it. The Most High came in. It came against the adversary, right? And verse 3 says, and Yehoshua was dressed in filthy garments. It was standing before the messenger. And he answered and spoke to those who stood before him, saying, remove the filthy garments from him. And to him he said, see, I have removed your guilt from you and shall put costly robes on you. And remember, we talked about before how the blood of goats and lambs and different things were not sufficient to remove that guilt. And we talked about how when Adam and Hawa, how they tried to put the fig leaves on them or whatever, and that wasn't sufficient because they still end up hiding from the Most High right after that. They tried to cover themselves with that, but then they end up hiding from the Most High right after that because it wasn't enough to cleanse their guilt, to cleanse them from their sin and remove that guilt. And that's why in Yahusha we're able to get forgiveness of sins and have our conscience cleaned through that process. So it says, see, I have removed your guilt from you and shall put costly robes on you. Here we go again with putting on a costly robe. We just read that with the prodigal son. And I said, let them put a clean turban on his head. Then they put a clean turban on his head, and they put garments on him. And the messenger of Yahuah stood by. And the messenger of Yahuah witnessed to Yehoshua, saying, thus said Yahuah of hosts, if you walk in my ways, and if you guard my duty, if you walk in righteousness, then you shall also rule my house, and also guard my courts. And I shall give you access, remember that word, among these standing here. Okay, so this is happening in the spiritual realm, right? This is happening in the course of the Most High. So he's saying, I shall give you access among these standing here. And listen, Yehoshua, the high priest, you and your companions who sit before you, for they are men of symbol. But look, I'm bringing forth my servant, the branch. Okay, I think I want to stop there. Okay, so we see the same pattern. Okay. So the Most High removed his guilt and then put on costly robes on him. Then he said, I'm going to put a clean turban on his head. And I'm going to put clean garments on you. Okay, now, if you continue to walk in righteousness, then I'm going to allow you to rule in my house and guard my courts. And you're going to have access among these who are standing here. Okay, so he's standing before the messengers and different things going on. So this is the same process that we're seeing happening. All right, I'm gonna go to 1 Samuel. Let's say 1 Samuel, chapter 18. Chapter 18, and I'm going to look at, I'm going to start at verse 1. So this is dealing with King Shaul, King Saul, and King David. This is before David became king, so it's King Saul and his son Jonathan. All right. So verse 1, it says, and it came to be when he had ended speaking to Shaul that the being of Jonathan was knit to the being of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own being. And Shaul took him that day, it would not let him return to his father's house anymore. So Shaul took King David into his house. So he didn't return to his father's house anymore. He came into the king's house. Okay. And Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own being. And Jonathan took off the robe that was on him. Here we go again with this, with the robe, and gave it to Dawid, and his garments, even to his sword, and his bow, and his girdle. Okay, so what's happening here? So Jonathan and Dawid made a covenant with each other. So King Saul took him in to his house. So Dawid, before he became king, Dawid came into the king's house, and because he had made Jonathan is second, to the king. He's his son. So he made a covenant with Jonathan, and so Dawid comes into the king's house. So what does Jonathan do? He takes off his robe that's on him, gave it to Dawid, and his garments, even his sword and his bow and his girdle. So he clothes him with the clothes of the house that he's been taken into. So we see this pattern. So he's in the king's house. He takes on these garments when he enters in. So this is a covenant that's happening. There's an exchange that's happening when you enter into the Father's house. And I'm gonna go to one more, Genesis chapter 41. I hope that using this on the screen is helpful in being able to keep up with the scriptures. All right, Genesis chapter 41. I'm gonna go down to. Gotta wait for it to catch up. Uh-oh. Doesn't come back up. I'm just using scriptures. Let's see. So Genesis chapter 41. And I'm going to start at verse 38. Wait and see if that comes back up. But Genesis 41, I'm going to start at verse 38. So this is Pharaoh. So this is Joseph. This is Joseph. So this is Pharaoh. So this is after he gave this word to Pharaoh, whatever. I'll start at verse 37. It says, and the word was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all the servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, could we find another like him, a man in whom is the spirit of Elohim? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since Elohim has shown you all, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. Be over my house, you yourself, and at your mouth all my people shall kiss. Only in the throne I am greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh took his seal ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and he dressed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried out before him, bow the knee, and he set him over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without a word from me, and without a word from you, let no man lift his hand or foot in all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath Paneah, hope I said that right, and he gave him as a wife Asenath, and the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, which is interesting. He was around the same age that Yahusha was when he came to the end of his ministry. Let's see. So I'm gonna go back up to verse 40. Okay, I'm gonna go back up to verse 40. And he says, be over my house. So we have the same thing happening again, the same thing, be over my house. So Pharaoh is inviting Yosef to be in a place of authority in his house. Now Yosef he's a Hebrew. We're talking about Egypt, Mitzrayim, but he's inviting him because of the spirit that the Most High put in him. He's inviting him to be over his house. It says, you yourself and at your mouth all the people shall kiss. Only in the throne I'm greater than you. So Pharaoh remains the head of the house and the throne or whatever, but he's giving his authority to Yosef. Okay, and it said, so we see this process happening again. Pharaoh took off his seal ring off his hand and put it on Yosef's hand. So what is the it's also called the signet ring. So that ring is basically when a king would send out a order or something, we would send out orders, he would seal it with his ring, and that's how you know that it's an official authority this is signed by the king. So it was his the kings had different rings, so it was his signet ring, like his signature almost. And he would put that in the whenever he sent something out. So he took it off his hand. Pharaoh took it off of his hand and gave this basically authority. He gave this authority to Yosef and said that what did he say? In verse 44, he said, I'm Pharaoh, but without a word from you, let no man lift his hand or foot in all the land of Mitzrayim. Okay, so this is a beautiful picture of dealing with the Father, dealing with Yahuah and Yahusha, how the Most High has given him authority over his house. So Yahuah is the Most High, but Yahusha as the first fruits that was risen as the first son, as he is given authority. Okay, so he's been given authority to be able to rule and reign in his house. So this is a picture of this. Most High is always giving us shadows. He's always giving us examples to be able to pull on, to be able to see how he operates. Okay, so we see the same thing happening. This authority was given over to him. He took his ring off. He dressed him in garments of fine linen. So he had to dress him take off the garments that he was wearing before and put on the garments of the king's house. Okay, and put a gold chain around his neck. And then it's interesting, he also gave him a wife. So when we look at when Yahusha, we're considered the bride of Yahusha, right? All right. So I just wanted to give kind of a backdrop of how the Most High, how this exchange happens, how the Most High operates, how this authority happens, how he takes off these old garments and he's putting new garments on us to be able to equip us as a royal priesthood, to be able to serve in his house and to be able to have the authority that we need in him. Okay. All right, I'm going to go to. So last week we kind of dealt with how we need to clothe ourselves, and now we're still dealing with clothing ourselves, but we're dealing with kind of gearing up. We got to dress. So think about when you're leaving your house. So the way that you dress and the things that you carry with you is going to be determined by where you're going, right? So if you are going to work, say if you are a police officer, it's a bad example for right now, but if you're a police officer, you're gonna grab your badge, you're gonna grab your gun, you're gonna grab maybe your vest, you're gonna be dressed in a way that is preparing you for what you're going to do. So remember, so you're gonna dress in a way that's preparing you for that's equipping you for what you're gonna do. If you're going on a trip, then you're gonna need to carry. You may need your GPS. You may need your lunch bag. You may need, so depending on where you're going is going to determine how you're dressed beyond your regular clothes. So you're going to get dressed, but then the gear that you need, the equipment that you need to be able to carry out whatever you're going to do is that next layer that you're going to put on. If it's raining and you're going out to the rain, may need a poncho, you may need a rain jacket. So there's that basic level that we all are clothed in, and then there's the equipping that the Most High has to give us to be able to continue in the work. So this first, I'm gonna go to all right, I'll come back to that. I'm gonna go to Romans 13. And hopefully everybody's still rolling with me. Sorry, I usually open up for more questions and comments, but I got so much to get through for the night. I'm gonna just kind of roll through it, and I'll open it up when we get to the end more so. Romans 13. I'll start at verse 10. Love does no evil to a neighbor. Therefore, love is completion of the Torah. And do this knowing the time that it is already the hour for us to wake up from sleep. For now our deliverance is nearer than we did believe. And this is them speaking now, but it's so true to us for this hour that we're in right now. That knowing the time and the hour that we're in right now, that it's time for us to wake up from our sleep, and the Most High is waking us up. Our deliverance is nearer than when we first believed. Verse 12, the night is far advanced, the day has come near. So let us put off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Okay, so we're starting with this language of putting on armor. And in this situation here, he tells us to put on the armor of light. It says, let us walk becomingly as in the day, not in wild parties and drunkenness, not in living together and indecencies, not in fighting and envy, but put on the Master Yahusha Messiah and make no provision for the lust of the flesh. So we're putting on the Master Yahusha Messiah. We talked about how we're putting on his righteousness, and we're putting on the Messiah and making no provisions for the flesh. But it says that put on the armor of light. In Proverbs, I'm not going to go to it, but in Proverbs 6:23, I am going to go to it. I had to read a scripture and then to refer to a scripture and not just go to it. So I'm going to go to Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. And this is telling us, so we just read it, said to put on the armor of light. And as we've been talking about Proverbs 6, verse 23 says, for the command is a lamp, and the Torah is a light, and reproofs of discipline and way of life. So we know all throughout the scriptures, it talks about the Torah being a light. So it says, for the command is a lamp, and the Torah is a light. So this armor of light, so putting on this armor of light and putting on the Master Yahusha, this is what's going to start equipping us to be able to walk not after darkness, but walking after his light. I'm going to get ready to go to Ephesians 6. Yeah, I'm going to go to Ephesians chapter 6. And then we're going to spend some time going through here. I'm going to Ephesians chapter 6. All right. Let's start at verse 1. This is book of Ephesians. This is one of the books, writings of the Apostle Shaul. Shaul, an emissary or apostle of Yahushua Messiah, by the desire of Elohim, to the set apart ones who are in Ephesus and true to Messiah Yahusha. Favor to you and peace from Elohim, our Father, and the Master Yahushua Messiah. Blessed be the Elohim and Father of our Master Yahushua Messiah, who has blessed us with every spiritual blessing in the heavenlies in Messiah, even as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be set apart and blameless before him in love, having previously ordained us to adoption as sons through Yahushua Messiah to himself, according to the good pleasure of his desire, to the praise of the esteem of his favor, with which he favored us in the beloved, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of trespasses according to the riches of his favor, which he has lavished on us in all wisdom and insight, having made known to us the secret of his desire, according to his good pleasure, which he purposed in him, to administer at the completion of time, to gather in one all in Messiah, both which are in the heavens and which are on the earth in him. One second. Yeah. Start there. Oh, that's because I'm in Ephesians chapter 1. I'm like, this is not where I'm trying to be. I'm reading the wrong thing. All right, Ephesians chapter 6. Sorry, but that still goes along with what we were talking about, thankfully. But I'm trying to get to Ephesians chapter 6. There we go. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna pick up at verse 10, Ephesians chapter 6. For the rest, my brothers, be strong in the master and in the mightiness of his strength. Put on the complete armor of Elohim for you to have power to stand against the schemes of Hasatan. Because we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against authorities, against the world rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual matters of wickedness in the heavenlies. Because of this, take up the complete armor of Yahuah, so that you have power to withstand in the wicked day. And having done all to stand, stand then, having girded your waist with truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having fitted your feet with the preparation of the good news of peace. Above all, having taken up the shield of belief, with which you shall have power to quench all the burning arrows of the wicked one. Take also the helmet of deliverance and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim, praying at all times with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, watching in all perseverance and supplication for all the set apart ones. Also for me, that a word might be given to me in the opening of my mouth, to be bold in making known the secret of the good news. All right, so this is, we've all been familiar with this portion of scripture here that's dealing with putting on the armor. And I just want to show that Brother Shaul is not just coming out of nowhere. It's a couple of places. So we read one where it talked about the armor of light. We read that in Romans. And I'm just going to read this portion here in the book of 4th Maccabees. We know in our books that are in our Apocrypha. For those that have the Apocrypha, one of the books is 4th Maccabees. And 4th Maccabees, for some reason, is not in this one if you have this version. I have a couple of other versions that has it in there, but it's in 4th Maccabees. It says 4th Maccabees chapter 13. It's good to read the whole chapter, but around verse 16, it talks about, therefore put on the full armor of authority over the passions which belong to the mind that fears Eloah. Okay, so put on the full armor. So this is a language that we're going to hear that is not new. It wasn't something that Shaul was just pulling out of nowhere. Also in the Apocrypha, in the book of in the Wisdom of Solomon, Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5 verse 15 says, but the righteous live forevermore. The reward also is with Yahuah, and the care of them is with the Most High. Therefore shall they receive a glorious kingdom and a beautiful crown from the hand of Yahuah. With his right hand shall he cover them, and with his arm shall he protect them. He shall take to him in his zeal all the armor, and shall armor him with him all his creation. For the dissolution of the detestable ones, he shall put on righteousness as a breastplate, and judgment that is not false instead of an helmet. He shall take holiness for an invisible shield. His severe wrath shall he sharpen for a sword, and the world shall fight with him against the foolish. Okay, so we're hearing some of the same language here. And then I'm gonna go to Isaiah. I'm gonna come back to Ephesians. I'm gonna jump over to Isaiah. chapter 59. Isaiah chapter 59. Alrighty. I'm going to go to verse. Could read all of this, but I'm going to go down to verse. When you go back, read the whole chapter, but I'm going to jump down to verse. I'm going to go up to verse 12. For our transgressions have increased before you, and our sins witnessed against us. For our transgressions are with us, and as for our crookedness, we know them. Transgressing and being untrue to Yahuah, turning away from our Elohim, speaking oppression and apostasy, conceiving and pondering words of falsehood from the heart. And right ruling is driven back, and righteousness stands far off. For truth has fallen in the street, and right is unable to enter. And the truth is lacking. The truth is lacking. And whoever turns away from evil makes himself a prey. And Yahuah saw, and it displeased him that there was no right rulings. We've been talking about how the Most High is looking for right ruling. Even in us being in the situation that our people are in here right now, it's because there was no right ruling amongst our people. And that's how we found ourselves under the rulership of a people who don't rule righteously. You know, the Most High is serious about there being right ruling, righteous judgment amongst the people. And he saw that there was no man, and was astonished that there was no intercessor. So his own arm saved for him, and his righteousness upheld him. And he put on righteousness as a breastplate, and a helmet of salvation on his head. And he put on garments of vengeance for clothing, and wrapped himself with ardor as a mantle, according to their deeds. So he repays wrath to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies. He repays recompense to the coastlands. Okay, so we see here that the Most High saying, he says that he saw there was no righteousness. So he said that his own arm saved for him, and his righteousness upheld him. He put on righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of deliverance on his head. So we see the same language we just read: breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of deliverance, and he gets to put on a garment of vengeance, and wrap himself with the ardor or the zeal as a mantle. So he's able. We know that vengeance belongs to the Most High. Okay, so he put on a righteousness as a breastplate, helmet of deliverance. So I just want to show that this language was not new with Shaul. All right, so I'm gonna go back to Ephesians. We're gonna spend some time in here. So Ephesians chapter 6, we were at. Ephesians chapter 6. All right. All right, so I'm going to go down to verse 10. So it says, for the rest of my brothers, be strong in the master and the mightiness of his strength. Let's see. Let me check my other version here. I think it says it a little bit differently. Okay, so it says, be strong in the master and the mightiness of his strength. In other versions, it says to stand in the master and in the mightiness of his strength. So we're going to be standing and taking a stand. So this is how. So what we're talking about now is how we are going to withstand in the things that we're going through. Now that we've been clothed with righteousness, now that we have the what we need as far as being rightly positioned in the Most High. He's saying, okay, now stand, be strong in the master, stand in him and in the mightiness of his strength. You're going to put on the complete armor of Elohim for you to have power to stand against the schemes of the devil. So to stand against these schemes of the enemy, we have to put on the complete armor of Elohim. So he said this, we wrestling not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against authorities, against the world rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual matters of wickedness in the heavenlies. So we're battling not against flesh and blood, even though we're dealing with flesh and blood on a day-to-day basis. We look like we're dealing with flesh and blood. We're dealing with people. We're dealing with ourselves. So we're dealing with flesh, but he's saying that the wrestler is not against this flesh and blood, but it's against principalities. Those are the high levels in the spirit, against authorities, against the world rulers of the darkness of this age. Okay, we see that's what's going on right now, against spiritual matters of wickedness in the heavenlies. Okay, so because of this, take up the complete armor. So he says twice, the complete armor. I mean, don't leave anything off. We don't want to put on parts of the armor. We need the complete armor of Yahuah, so that you have power to withstand in the wicked day. And having to done all to stand, having girded your waist with truth. So it says, having to done all to stand, you're going to stand. Okay. Read this here. So there's a number of scriptures that talks about standing in the Most High. This thing goes so slow. I'm going to go to 2 Chronicles chapter 20. Okay, good. 2 Chronicles chapter 20. Verse 15, and he said, listen, all Yehuda and you inhabitants of Jerusalem and King Jehoshaphat. Thus said Yahuah to you, do not fear nor be afraid of the face of this great army, for the battle is not yours, but Elohim's. Go down against them tomorrow. See, they are coming up by the ascent of Zeetz, and you shall find them at the end of the Wadi before the wilderness of Yarel. It is not for you to fight in this. Position yourselves, stand still, and see the deliverance of Yahuah with you, O Yehuda and Jerusalem. Do not be afraid nor fear. Go out against them tomorrow, for Yahuah is with you. So he says, this is not your battle. It's for you to fight. Just position yourself. So what the Most High is saying, he was telling us to stand. He's saying to position yourself. Stand still and see the deliverance of Yahuah. Yahuah is going to be the one that's going to do the delivering. Okay, he's going to deliver you. But it says, position yourself, stand still. Okay, so Paul was telling us, Shaul was telling us to stand still, stand. Okay, so he's saying to stand in the right position, position yourself. So that's why these things are so important. But we have to be in the right position so that we can see the Most High come through for us. I'm just gonna, for the sake of time, I'm gonna give you the scripture. I'm not gonna pull all of them up on the screen, but Psalm 46 verse 10 says, be still and know that I am Yahuah. I am exalted among nations. I am exalted in the earth. Yahuah of hosts is with us. The Elohim of Yaakov, Jacob, is our refuge, the place that you can hide within. So he says, be still and know that I am Yahuah. Okay, so when he says to stand, this is the mindset that we're taking on, that we're gonna be standing in him, standing in the right position, so that the Most High can be able to fight the battles that we have on our behalf. Okay, Isaiah 41:10. You could write that, keep that in your notes. Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not look around, for I am your Elohim. I shall fortify you. I shall also help you. I shall also uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. I am with you. I shall fortify you, make you stable. Okay, I shall also help you. I shall uphold you with my right hand of my righteousness. So this is him again. I think I want to finish reading. It says, you seek them. Okay, you seek them, but do not find them. Those who struggle with you, those who fight you, are non-existent as not. For I, Yahuah, your Elohim, am strengthening your right hand, saying to you, do not fear, I shall help you. Do not fear, I shall help you, declares Yahuah, and your Redeemer, the set apart one of Yisrael. So he's saying again, so he's constantly telling us to be still and see, see the salvation. The last one is Exodus 14:13. Exodus 14:13. This is Moshe telling them again. And Moshe said to the people, do not be afraid, stand still and see the deliverance of Yahuah, which he does for you today. For the Mitzrites who you see, the Egyptians who you see today, you are never to see again. Yahuah does fight for you, and you keep silent. So he's telling them that he's going to fight the battle. Know this, and just stand in position. So this is the first thing that the Most High is telling us through this we're going to read, is to stand. Once you get to the right position in him, stand and watch the Most High fight your battle. Okay, so it says, so now what are we standing in? I'm gonna go back to Ephesians 6, and I think I'm gonna keep it on here and read the rest of them from my scriptures here, so that we can move through it. So what did he say? He said Ephesians chapter 6. After he told us to stand, in verse 14, stand then, having girded your waist with truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness. So stand, having girded your waist with truth. So we're putting on the belt of truth. Truth in Hebrew is emet. Emet. Truth is emet. All right, so it says, stand then, having girded your waist with truth. So this is one of the first things that we're standing in. I'm going to look at 2 Corinthians chapter 10. Second Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not fight according to the flesh. We just talked about how we're walking in the flesh. Okay, we're dealing with people day to day. We're dealing with ourselves from day to day, right? But it says, though we walk in the flesh, we do not fight according to the flesh. So even though we're walking in the flesh, our fight is not coming from the flesh. How we're battling, how we're handling things is not coming from the flesh. It says, for the weapons we fight with are not fleshly, but mighty in Elohim, for overthrowing strongholds, overthrowing reasonings, and every high matter that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim, taking captive every thought to make it obedient to the Messiah, to the Anointed One, and being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is complete. So Paul is saying here, he's saying that we're walking in the flesh. We're dealing with flesh day to day. We're dealing with ourselves. We're dealing with people. But the way that we're going to fight the battles is we're already standing, and we're going to stand with our belt of truth. We're going to have our belt of truth girded around us. Okay, and so we're going to fight with these spiritual weapons, and what these weapons are able to do is to overthrow strongholds. Okay, what is a stronghold? We're going to overthrow reasonings and every high matter that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim. We're going to take captive every thought to make it obedient to the Messiah. So we're dealing with taking captive thoughts. So this is what we most closely deal with on a day-to-day basis. We're encountering situations that try to knock us off from being able to just stand in the truth. And it comes a lot of times in the form of thoughts, whether it's something that rises up in our own mind, whether it's something that through an encounter and dealing with somebody, we have to make a choice as to what we're going to stand in. So an example of this is in the garden in Genesis 3. In Genesis 3, we see Eve or Hawa, and she's being confronted by the Nakash, the serpent. She's being confronted with these words, and the Nakash was more crafty than all the lives of the field which Yahuah Elohim had made. He said to the woman, so she's out and she's dealing and she's having this confrontation, and so what's being said to her is, it says he said to the woman, is it true? Is it true? Is it the truth that Yahuah has said, do not eat of every tree of the garden? Is it true? So she's being confronted with something. Is this true? The Most High said it, but now she's being confronted to say, is this true? Do not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said to the Nakash, we are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst, Yahuah said, do not eat or touch it, lest you die. So then the Nakash is saying, okay, you telling me, you're telling me this, but I'm telling you that you shall not certainly die. For Yahuah knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be like Yahuah Elohim, knowing good and evil. So now the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and was pleasant to the eye, a tree desirable to make one wise, and she took its fruit and ate. So she was standing in the truth. She started off standing in the truth, even though the Most High didn't never say don't touch the tree. He just said don't eat from the tree. But she started off standing in the truth. And as she's being confronted and a lie is being brought to her, or something deceptive is being brought to her, somehow she faltered from that truth. She loosened up that belt that was supposed to have been holding her up and helping her to stand in that space. For Elohim says that that you're going to be like Yahuah, knowing good and evil. So now the woman, she started thinking. So now these thoughts are going through her mind, and she's like, well, it does look good, and it's pleasant to the eye, and I think it'll make me wise. So she took of it and ate it. So this is why we're told to stand, to put on to stand and put on the belt of truth. We have to be able to stand in a place where we are aware what the truth is. And we read in 2 Corinthians, it says to pull down strongholds and take captive every thought. So with 2 Corinthians, she's saying, okay, the part of this process is anything that exalts itself against the knowledge of Yahuah, we are to take captive that thought and pull it down. So in this situation right here, she was dealing with something that was exalting itself against the knowledge of Yah. Yah had given her the knowledge, he had given her the instruction, had given her the word to stand in, and something this thing came to exalt itself above that, to say, well, I know that you saying the Most High said this, but let me show you this. Let me present you with something else. So when this thing exalted itself, it was for her to be like, let me take that captive and cast it down. This thing is trying to exalt itself against the knowledge of Yahuah. But that's not what happened. She didn't stand in the truth. She didn't take that thought captive within her mind that said, well, maybe this will be good for me. She didn't challenge the fact that the Most High was being taken down and this other knowledge was being elevated. So this is what we deal with on a day-to-day basis of things that we're confronted with. And as we're confronted with it, we have to recognize it. So first of all, we got to know the truth. We got to know what the truth is. And if we don't know truth, we don't recognize when something is exalting itself against this truth. So we have to know the truth. We have to we have to stand in the truth that we know and not be moved from it. I'm not going to read it, but in Matthew, you can read Matthew chapter 4. It deals with Yahusha in the wilderness. He was led in the wilderness by the Ruach, by the Spirit of the Most High. And he was confronted and met the serpent there, met Hashatan there. And Hashatan tempted him and kept throwing things at him. You know what I mean? So, and we know that in each encounter, he came back with the word of Yah. In each one of those encounters, Yahusha came back with the word of Yah. He came back with the scriptures, verbatim. and brought that back to him, and he stood in that truth that he knew in that situation. So that's what we have to do. We have to put on the belt of truth. We have to know the truth and just stand in it. All we have to do is stand in the truth that we know, and throw down anything that tries to exalt itself against that. We have to throw it down. So this is part of our spiritual armor. In John chapter 8, Yahusha is talking to his disciples, and he tells them that if you abide in me and my word abides in you, then you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. If my word abides in you and you abide in me, then you shall know the truth. If you continue in me, you'll know the truth. You keep following Yahusha and getting in the word, you're going to know the truth, and you're going to have an intimate knowledge of the truth. The truth's going to be a part of you. It's going to be in you, and you're going to know that truth, and that truth is going to set you free. It's going to set you free in every situation. When something comes against you, it's going to free you, because you're going to be able to combat it with the truth. It's going to free you because you're going to be able to stand and tear down anything that's coming against that. So when you know the truth shall set you free. Okay. Hallelujah. All right, so it says, having girded your waist with truth and having put on the breastplate of righteousness. I'm not going to go too deep into that because we talked about it a bit last week, but I'll go to Proverbs chapter 13. Proverbs chapter 16. I'm sorry, Proverbs chapter 13. Chapter 13. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 6 says, righteousness watches over him who is perfect in the way. Righteousness watches over him who is perfect in the way, but wrongness overthrows the sinner. Righteousness watches over him who is perfect in the way, but wrongness overthrows the sinner. So when you're walking in righteousness, it watches over you. It's a guard. It's a breastplate. So walking in righteousness becomes a breastplate. It watches over you, and but when you are not walking in that, you're overthrown by it. Something close to that is in Proverbs chapter 11, verse 3. It says the integrity of the upright will guide him. The integrity of the upright will guide him, but the slipperiness of the treacherous destroys them. So when you're walking in righteousness, when you're walking upright, it guides you. It's a guide for you. So when you put on this breastplate of righteousness, of walking in uprightness, walking upright, the word for righteous is Sadiq. We talked about it last week, Sadiq. Okay, so that becomes a guide for you. It becomes a guard. It guards you in the way. It guards you in the truth. And you can write down Psalm 5:12. Psalm 5:12 says, for you bless the righteous, O Yahuah. You surround him with favor as with a shield. It says, for you bless the righteous, O Yahuah. You surround him with favor as with a shield. So Yahuah blesses the righteous and surrounds him with favor as a shield. So here we go again with this language of shielding and being an armor. All right, so the breastplate of righteousness.
He's still there with her. Yeah. She said he take it with her.
All right, going back to Ephesians, it says that verse 15, having fitted your feet with the preparation of the good news of peace. Having fitted your feet with the preparation of the good news of peace.
It look like this. We're trying to put hard.
Joanne. All right. With feet prepared with the good news of peace, the Basora of Shalom. Let me read that. All right, so this is another piece of the armor that we have, our feet being prepared with the good news of peace. So this again is something that we're standing in. We're standing with our feet prepared. We are carriers of the good news of peace. What is peace? Peace is the peace that we've been reconciled. You can write down 2 Corinthians 5:18. 2 Corinthians 5:18 says, all matters are from Elohim, who has restored us to favor with himself through Yahusha Messiah, and has given us the ministry of reconciliation. In my version, it says the service of restoration. But in other versions, it says the ministry of reconciliation to favor. That is, the Elohim was in Messiah reconciling the world to favor to himself, not reckoning their trespasses to them, and has commanded to us the word of restoration to favor. Therefore, we are invoiced on behalf of Messiah as though Yahuah was pleading through us. We beg on behalf of Messiah, be restored to favor with Elohim. For he made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of Elohim. Okay, so we're standing in the knowledge of it with our feet prepared with this good news, with our feet prepared with this good news of being reconciled to peace with the Most High. So the Most High has reconciled us to peace with him. So we stand in it. Our feet are prepared, first of all, to stand in that shalom, that restoration that he's brought to us, that reconciliation that he's brought to us. We stand in that, and this is all. And next week we're going to be talking about what we go out to do, what we're called to go out to do. And part of that is bringing this good news, allowing the Most High to work through us to reconcile his people back to him. So this is what our feet are prepared with, this good news, the Basora, the good news of peace, of shalom. So this is what we're doing. We're being reconciled back. A couple of scriptures that you can also read is talking about peace being made with the Most High. You can read Romans chapter 5, verse 1. I'm not going to read it right now because we're running short on time, but Romans chapter 5, verse 1. Colossians chapter 1, verse 20. And Ephesians chapter 2, verse 15. All right, so all of those, what you're going to see is talking about being reconciled to the Most High, being brought back and connected back to the Most High, to a place of peace. All right, so Ephesians 6, we're at verse 15. So verse 16, above all, having taken up the shield of belief, of faith, with which you shall have power to quench all the burning arrows of the wicked one. So this next piece that we're dealing with is the shield of faith. We know faith is dealing with trust. We talked about how Yahusha last week in Isaiah 11:11, how Yahusha had he put on righteousness, he was clothed in righteousness and in emunah, trustworthiness. We talked about how faith is not just a mental belief, but it's us being nurtured by the Most High, and then through that nurturement we're built up to trust him. So now we become trustworthy as we are walking with him. Okay, so we put on the shield of emunah so that we can, so this is quenching the arrows of the wicked one. So what arrows of the wicked one? I'm going to go to Revelation chapter 12. What arrows of the wicked one are we trying to quench with this shield of faith, the shield of emunah? Revelations 12:9. And the great dragon was thrown out, the serpent of old, called the devil and Hasatan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in the heaven, now have come the deliverance and the power and the kingdom of our Elohim and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers, who accused them before our Elohim day and night, has been thrown down. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness. And they did not love their lives to the death. So this is telling us here, it's saying that he accused them day and night before Elohim. So he's being thrown down. So showing that through the authority of Messiah, he's being thrown down, but he was an accuser of the brothers, accuser of the brethren. And day and night, that's all that he did was bring these accusations against the people of Yah. So when we stand in this, stand with the shield of Emunah, the shield of faith, the shield that says that, you know what, I know I trust the Most High. I've been nurtured by him. I'm trusting him to fight my battles, right? And because I've been nurtured by him, now I'm in a place where I'm able to be trustworthy. I'm able to walk in a way that shows that I trust him. I'm standing in this. This is my faith. So when these accusations come against me, there's nothing to it. So we saw this in Job chapter 1. You can write down Job chapter 1, and you can read through the first chapter. In Job chapter 1, we have where the Most High, we have where Satan and all of the messengers were presenting themselves, the sons of Yah were presenting themselves to the Most High, and the Most High is questioning them. So it says that in verse 6, the day came to be that the sons of Yahuah came to present themselves before Yahuah, and Hashatan also came among them. For Yahuah said to Hashatan, "From where do you come?" And Hashatan said, "From diligently searching the earth, walking up and down in it." And so Yahuah says, "Have you considered my servant Job? There's none like him in the earth, perfect and straight, who fears Yahuah and turns away from evil." So the Most High is bringing this up, saying, as you going through the earth, did you notice my servant here who's upright, who's righteous, who's walking in my ways? Have you observed him? So Hashatan is saying, well, have you not made a hedge around him? No, it says in verse 9, and Hashatan answered Yahuah and said, "Is he fearing Yah for nothing? Have you not put a hedge around him and around his household and around all that he has on every side? You've blessed the work of his hand, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and strike all that he has, and he would not curse. And would he not curse you to your face?" So he's accusing Job of only being. So he's trying to say that the only reason that Job is serving you and that he's being righteous and upright is because you got this protection around him. But if you didn't have this protection around him, then he would curse you to his face. He's not really that faithful. He's only in it for when he can get out of it. So we see this image of Hashatan being before the Most High, and he's accusing the Most High of he's accusing Job of not being faithful, basically saying that he's only faithful because of what you do for him. And we know the story of Job, that what happens, and the Most High tests him. And I just want to read just at verse 21. Verse 21. After the Most High allows something to strike Job and allows some things to strike his house, in verse 21 he says, Job said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I return there. Yahuah has given, and Yahuah has taken away. Blessed be the name of Yahuah." And it says in verse 22, "In all of this, Job did not sin, nor ascribe wrongdoing unto Elohim." So Hashatan was wrong. He was not successful in what he was trying to accuse Job of. He was trying to accuse Job to say he's going to curse you to his face. So this became a test of the Most High, testing Job's faith, testing, does Job really trust me? Does he trust my character? Does he trust my goodness? Is he going to remain faithful to me despite these trials coming against? So this is this shield of faith that we're putting up, the shield of Emunah, of trusting the Most High after having been nurtured by him, and remaining faithful. That's what's going to quench these fiery darts when the enemy starts to try to accuse us and throw these accusations at us. He's in the heavenlies trying to accuse us to the Most High. He's in our midst. People take on the spirit of the accuser in our midst and start throwing accusations at us that we feel a need to defend ourselves against. So we have to put up this shield of faith and know that Yahuah fights our battles. All we have to do is stand and remain faithful, remain trusting in him, remain trustworthy. And so it says here that Job, he did not sin. There was no wrongdoing found in him despite the trial that he went through. So this is what we want to be. We want to stand in the shield of faith. Hebrews 11:6 says, without Emunah, without this, it is impossible to please the Most High Yah. Without having this faith, this relationship of trusting the Most High and being trustworthy as a reaction to that, Without that, it's impossible to please the Most High. So we want to stand with the shield of faith that the Most High has given us. The next one says 17, take also the helmet of deliverance and the sword of the Spirit, the sword of the Ruach, which is the word of Elohim. So it takes also, first of all, the helmet of deliverance. We want to put on this helmet of deliverance, salvation. Salvation in Hebrew is Yeshua. Yeshua is the word for salvation. So we want to stand in that deliverance, put it on, be sure in it. And I'm just going to read Psalm chapter 3. You can write down Psalm chapter 3. Psalm chapter 3 says, O Yahuah, how my adversaries have increased, many rising up against me. Many are saying of me, there is no deliverance for him in Elohim. So people are saying, so here's those accusations. Here's those accusations that are coming up again. Many are rising up against me. Many are saying of me that there's no deliverance for him in Elohim. So somebody's rising up and saying that he's not going to be, your Yah is not going to deliver you. The Most High is not going to come through for you. He's saying his adversaries have increased. Many are rising up against me. They're saying there's no deliverance for you in Elohim. But you, O Yahuah, are a shield for me, my esteem, and the one lifting up my head. So we talked about how the Most High earlier in another verse, Kino, we said that you lift me up on a rock. You put me up in this elevated place. You put me up where you are. He says, but you, O Yahuah, are a shield for me. You're a shield for me. We're talking about this armor again. Despite the fact that they're trying to throw accusations at me to say the Most High is not going to help you. He's not coming for you. He's not bringing you out of this. He says, you are a shield for me, my esteem, and the one lifting up my head. I cried to Yahuah with my voice, and he heard me from his set apart mountain. His set apart mountain, that high place, he heard me from there. I lay down and slept. I awoke, for Yahuah sustained me. I am not afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me all around. Arise, O Yahuah, save me, O my Elohim, because you have stricken all my enemies on the cheek. You have broken the teeth of the wrong. Deliverance belongs to Yahuah. Your blessing is on your people. Selah. So this is he's walking in this assurance. So this is an assurance. You're putting on this surety, this assurance, this helmet of deliverance, this helmet of salvation, this having this mind about you that knows that deliverance is going to come from the Most High Yah. Even though things are coming against you, deliverance is going to come from the Most High Yah. He says that you are the lifter of my head, and you are a shield for me. So this is what we have to stand in, despite the things that we're going through. We're putting on this helmet of salvation. And to go with that, in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13 says, therefore, having girded up the loins of your mind, being sober, set your expectation perfectly upon the favor that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yahusha Messiah. Is that what I wanted? First Peter. I think I wanted something. No, this is right. Therefore, having girded up the loins of your mind, set your expectation on this deliverance. Set your expectation on the fact that the Most High is going to deliver you. So this is what you have to set your expectation on. Have your mind set on it, because things are going to come against us. All right, and it says, set it perfectly upon the grace that's going to be given to you once Messiah is revealed, once this thing is revealed. Hallelujah. All right. So it says in verse 17, take on the helmet of salvation, of deliverance, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. The sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. So we talked about that. We talked about how the word and the word and the Spirit are one. How the Spirit that he speaks is how the words that he speaks are spirit. So I'm not going to go too much into that. We know that the Spirit is the Ruach of Yahuah. The word is the bar of Yahuah. So it says the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. So we see that the sword is something that is shielded. This is something, a lot of these things we're just standing in, right? And it's a more of a like a defense. It's a defensive thing. We're just standing in. But when we get to the sword of the Spirit, this is something that's offensive. This is something that you're going to have to yield. So we go back to Matthew 4 when Yahusha was being confronted by the Hashatan in the wilderness. He had to use the sword of the Spirit. He had to be able to yield that sword and to come back with the word of the Most High when he was being in those situations. I'm just going to read one scripture here. Hebrews, you can write down Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4. And we're coming, almost getting to the end here. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12 says, for the word of Elohim is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit and of joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. And there is no creature hidden from his sight, but all are naked and laid bare before the eyes of him with whom is our account. Okay, so everything's laid bare. The word exposes us. The word of Elohim is alive. His word is life, it's spirit. So we talked about how the spirit that he gave to dwell in us, it searches our hearts. It searches us. It's a double-edged sword. So it's something that is working for us on the inside of us, and that we're able to shield against the enemy. So when we're confronted with something, we're going to have this shield of truth, this shield of his word to be able to deal with the situations. But we have to, first of all, be able to deal with what's going on in ourselves, allowing that spirit to discern our own motives, allowing that spirit to move on the inside of us and to discern what's going on in our thoughts. It says to judge the thoughts and the intentions of the heart. So we have to stay in the place, in the right position of righteousness. We have to allow that word to search us. We have to allow our discernment to grow so that we can be able to discern what's righteous and what's not righteous, to discern what's righteous and what's not righteous, and what we are supposed to walk in. So we have to allow that word to search our hearts, and allow that sword to go both ways. A lot of times we get the word and we don't use it as a double-edged sword. We just take it as a dagger and we throwing it at other people. That's one of the issues that we have as a people. We learn some word and we take it as a dagger and we're throwing it at everybody else, and throwing it as a dagger instead of using it as a sword and allowing it. The first has to deal with us. It first has to cut us. It first has to purify us and to cleanse us. So we have to be dealt with and washed, and then we're able to use that effectively to be able to ward off the things that are coming at us, and to help others to be able to deal with what's going on with them too. So we're going to get more into that next week when we're talking about the going out. All right. And you can write down Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 4. I think it's like 4 through 12. I'm not going to read that one. All right, the last one here is verse 18. Praying at all times with all prayer and supplication in the Ruach, in the Spirit. Watching in all perseverance and supplication for all the set apart ones. Praying at all times with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, in the Ruach. Watching in all perseverance and supplication for all the set apart ones. So praying in Hebrew, tefillah, or palau, that's two of the Hebrew words for prayer and supplication. It's saying here that at all times we want to be praying continually, and making our requests known before the Most High. Okay, and I'm going to read. I'll read Luke 22. 22. Okay, so this is Yahusha. So Yahusha's getting ready to go, this is in the Garden of Gethsemane. He's getting ready to go to be, to go to his death. And so he's I'm going to start at verse 40. He has his disciples with him, the ones that are close to him. He says, coming to the place, he said to them, pray that you do not enter into trial. And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, and falling on his knees, he was praying, saying, Father, if it be your counsel, remove this cup from me, yet not my desire, but let yours be done. So he's battling with his flesh here. So he's going into prayer so that he does not give into his flesh, but that he allows the Ruach to have his way. He allows the Most High's will to be done. And there appeared a messenger from heaven to him, strengthening him. So a messenger from the Shemayim strengthened him in the midst of that prayer. And being in agony, he was praying more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And rising up from prayer and coming to his taught ones, he found them sleeping from grief. And he said to them, why do you sleep? Rise up and pray, lest you enter into trial. And while he was still speaking, see a crowd, and he was calling Judas. So is that the one I want to read? You're back in verse 46. He said, why do you sleep? Rise and pray, lest you enter into trial. Okay, so he's telling them that you need to pray so that you don't enter into trial. And I don't know if it says, it may be in Mark or one of the other ones. It says a little differently. He tells them that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Okay, so he tells them the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And he's trying to explain to them that like this temptation is coming, and you have to gird yourself up. You have to be able to pray and you have to be able to gird yourself up in prayer so that you do not fall into temptation. He said the spirit is willing. In your spirit, you want to do, just like he was battling during this time with his Ruach. He was going to do the will of the Most High, but the flesh starts to kick in. So as the flesh is kicking in, and as those voices are coming in, and as the spiritual wickedness in high places are trying to interfere, as those things are coming in, he's saying that you have to, he's trying to tell them to pray so that you don't enter into temptation. So this is what he was doing so that he can stand. And he was trying to warn them, because we know that later on they all ended up forsaking him. When the stuff hit the fan, they all ran. Peter said he didn't know the man. They all fell into their flesh. So Mashiach was trying to get them to strengthen themselves in prayer. He said, watch with me. Could you not watch with me for 1 hour? Watch with me and strengthen yourself up so that you don't give into your flesh. Being prepared ahead of time. So when Shaul's telling us here, he's saying praying at all times. Okay, be in prayer at all times with all prayer and supplication. Supplication being those requests. Okay, in the spirit. Watching in all perseverance. Watching. That's what he was trying to get them to do in this situation. Watch with him, in all perseverance and supplication for all the set apart ones. So we're doing this for ourselves, but we're also doing this for each other. Okay. James chapter 5 talks about the prayers of the righteous being powerful and availing much. There's a few other scriptures that talks about prayer. I'm going to save those for next week when we get more into talking about the going and the doing, because we're running short on time now. And I'm going to read this last verse. I'm going to close out with this. Close out with this in Daniel chapter 9. And so this is, I'm going to read Daniel chapter 9. And the reason I'm going to this is because this is dealing with prayer. The last piece of the shield that we're dealing with right now is dealing with prayer and supplication, which is those requests that we make known to the Most High. But it's also showing us showing us that this is not something that's new. This is back in Torah. This is back on Daniel. This is during the time of captivity in Babylon. So this is spiritual warfare. I'm gonna read something from Daniel chapter 9 and a part of chapter 10. So this is showing us that this is not something new. The spiritual warfare is not something new. It's not that in the Torah and in the Tanakh that it was, all in the flesh fighting, and then we come over to the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, now it's all in the spirit fighting. It's always been both. It's always been, we're fighting, we're physically in a battle, but there's something that's going on in the spiritual realm at the same time as we're dealing with this thing in the flesh, but then there's something that's going on in the spiritual realm at the same time. And this shows us here in Daniel. I'm going to read this, then I'm going to end here for this week. Daniel chapter 9. And I'll start at verse 3. So he says, so I set my face toward Yahuah, the Elohim, to seek by prayer and supplication with fasting and sackcloth and ashes. And I prayed to Yahuah, my Elohim, and made confession and said, O Yahuah, great and awesome. El, guarding the covenant and the loving commitment to those who love him and to those who guard his commands. We have sinned and did crookedness and did wrong and rebelled to turn aside from your commands and from your right rulings. We have not listened to your servant, the prophets who spoke in your name, to your sovereigns or heads, our heads and our fathers, and to all the people of the land. O Yahuah, to you is the righteousness, and to us the shame of face. And it is this day to the men of Yehuda, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and all Yisrael, those near and far off in the lands to which you have driven them because of their trespass, which they have trespassed against you. So first of all, he is acknowledging that he's in a place of captivity. And this is important to us now. He's acknowledging that he's in this place of captivity because of what our forefathers have done and what our people continue to do. He's saying that our people we haven't listened to you. You sent your prophets. We didn't listen. We didn't repent. He acknowledges that the Most High is great, and he's guards his covenant, and he's great in his loving commitment towards us and to those who love him. So he's acknowledging the character of the Most High, who the Most High is, the fact that we are in this situation and because we have sinned against him, because we have turned away from him. So he's acknowledging all these things. You'll see our ancestors do that a lot. They'll acknowledge the sins of our people and how we got to this situation, how we haven't obeyed. And what this does is this confirms the righteousness of the Most High. It confirms that Yah is righteous in how he judges. He's righteous in the fact that, so it establishes our positioning with the Most High. Okay, so I'm going to skip down. I'm not going to read all of this, but you should go back and read all of the chapter. And he talks about how the Most High has allowed us to go through this wickedness. I'm going to drop down to verse 17. Now, O Elohim, hear the prayer of your servant and his supplication, and for the sake of Yahuah, cause your face to shine on your set-apart place, which is laid waste. O my Elohim, incline your ear and hear. Open your eyes and see our waste in the city which is called by your name. We do not present our supplications before you because of our righteous deeds, but because of your great compassion. He's saying, I'm not coming to you because I'm so righteous and I'm so right. I'm coming to you because I know that you're compassionate. I know that you guard your covenant. So I'm coming to you. And it says, O Yahuah, hear. O Yahuah, forgive. O Yahuah, listen and act. Do not delay for your own sake, my Elohim, for your city and your people are called by your name. So it says, and while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people, Yisrael, and presenting my supplication before Yahuah, my Elohim, for the set-apart mountain of my Elohim, while I was still speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision, this is a messenger, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, came close to me in swift flight about the time of the evening offering. He made me understand and talk with me and said, O Daniel, I have now come forth to make you wise concerning understanding. At the beginning of your supplications, a word went out, and I have come to make it known, for you are greatly appreciated. So consider the word and understand the vision. So then he starts to, so his what he prayed was heard. The Most High sent a messenger to come give Daniel a vision of what was going to come in the end time. I'm not going to read that portion. I'm going to jump down to chapter 10, verse 12. And this will be the last portion here. So this is a messenger coming to him again. He says, and he said to me, do not fear, Daniel, for the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before Yahuah, your words were heard, and I've come because of your words. But the head of the ruler of Persia withstood me 21 days. And see, Michael, one of the chief heads, came to help me, for I've been left alone there with the sovereigns of Persia. And I've come to make you understand what is to befall your people in the latter days, for the vision is yet for days to come. So he said, you know, the day that you set out, this day that you started praying for understanding, he says that when you humbled yourself before the Most High in your prayers, your words were heard. And I'm here because of that. But he's saying that there was some resistance in the spirit realm. We talked about the spiritual wickedness in high places, these powers, authorities, principalities, and rulers. He's saying that on that level, I was resisted. And the head of Persia withstood me, resisted me for 21 whole days. You know, so this is what we're seeing, the spiritual warfare. So he's revealing to him this warfare that was going on in the spirit to keep this vision from coming forth. So this is showing us even back in that time, during this captivity, there's this warfare that's going on in the spiritual realm. And he's explaining this to Daniel, that the first day that you set your heart, you know, to seek understanding and to humble yourself, that word was heard and is coming. So we have to stand in that same thing of knowing that the Most High is hearing us. We're humbling ourselves and making our prayers and our requests known. The Most High is hearing. There is resistance going on in high places, in low places. There's something resisting what's going on, but that we have to maintain. We have to maintain the understanding that the Most High is with us. The Most High is with us, and that He's allowing that word to go forth, that prayer to rise up to His ears, and He's hearing us. So in this place that we're in right now, there's an outcry amongst our people, right? Our people are out in the streets. They're protesting. You know, there's an outcry for the wickedness that's going on in the land. You know, there's a cry out of when will we be avenged of all of this that we've gone through. And Daniel was kind of seeking the same vision, and the Most High revealed to him the end times that we're, you know, coming up on now. Revealed to him the coming of Yahusha. You know, so we have to persevere and know that in the same type of way, presenting our prayers and our supplications and persevering in that despite the resistance, despite the fact that we may not see what's happening or what's moving. We have to present those prayers on our behalf and also on behalf of the other set apart ones. So we're going to go more into that next week. Next week will be the last portion, the last part of this series. We're going to be talking about the going out and how all this being clothed and being equipped, how we're taking this and carrying this and going out and performing with the Most High. What is He waking us up to? What was this whole process for? What is He equipping us to do? Who is He equipping us to be? How is He equipping us to stand in this time? So we're gonna take some of the elements that we've talked about tonight in dealing with these elements, and we're gonna go deeper into the application of it, of how do we walk in this now? How do we be able to walk in these things, standing in this, taking on these things, taking on this authority? How does this manifest right now in the season that we're in this walk that we're in this awakening? So we're going to go into that next week. Next week will be our last week, and it'll probably be more. You know, forgive me, I usually open up a little bit more for more dialogue during the course of it, but you see, this was a whole lot tonight to get out, so I wanted to get it all out. And so next week we're going to kind of get more to dealing with the application. It'll be more, hopefully, more dialogue that we can get into, and that will be our last part of this series. And then we'll shut down. And those who want to continue, when I go forward, whatever I do next is going to be a little bit more focused. As far as doing this series, we kind of dealt with a whole lot of things, and it just kind of poured out and for everybody to kind of take in whatever portion is for you. But as we go forward, it's going to be a more something where it's gonna be more dialogue and more focused on specific things. So if you want to stay in the loop, with whatever we go forward next, let me know, and I'll keep you posted on how we move forward after next week. If you have any suggestions, any questions, any comments, anything that you would like to dig into, I really want to get to a place of us dealing with things that are practical and that we're dealing with in our everyday life, and that's going to help us to grow and be prepared for where we're at. Whatever deliverance that we may need, whatever understanding that we may need, that we're actually getting equipped and building relationships along the process. So it'll be a little different when I move forward with the next session, not next week, but the next thing that we go into. So feel free to give your feedback. And we're coming right a little after 9 now, so I'm gonna close this out. So if anybody has any comments, a lot of people had to jump off earlier. So just a few of us left. If you have any comments, any questions, anything that you want to share before we pray out.
Yes, I'm curious about that spiritual warfare in high places.
Mm-hmm.
I've never understood that verse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you mean there's evil in heaven? That's what it sounds like.
The high places of, so we know that there are messengers. So the messengers is another word for angels. Right. So we read in the book of Job. Something just happened. You still see me?
Yeah, I'm looking right at you.
Okay. It went away. My thing went away on my side here. So we know that when we looked at Job, for example, Hashatan was presenting himself to the Most High in
right.
heaven. So you have the angels who are the angels, whether they're the fallen angels or if they're the messengers, the fallen ones, or the ones who are not fallen. They're both still under the Most High's rule. Like nothing can be done without the Most High's permission. You know what I mean? So they go forth into the earth, like Hashatan. He came and said he was roaming to and fro in the earth. You know what I mean? So it starts off with something that is coming down from that level, but they operate in the earth. So when we look at the powers that be, the ones who are running the governments, it talks about principalities, the high spirits, the spiritual realm, where these angels are operating under either the demonic or evil influence, or by virtue of the Most High sending them, because we know we've read where the Most High will put a lying spirit in the mouth of a prophet, for example. The Most High will send a lying spirit to be able to do different things. So there's things that's going on in the spiritual realm, but then there's things that are they have to be brought down to the realm of governments. So right now we see all kinds of things. We're trying to figure out, what is this coronavirus? Where did this come from? What are these protests? All these things. So in high places on the earth, the spiritual realm is influencing leaders to be able to move in different directions. And then, so that's high places that we don't have no control over, what the governments and different things are doing. And the things that are even above the governments, the government is just kind of a face, but we know there's things going on higher than that in this world. So so it goes up to the spiritual realm, and it comes down to the powers of this earth, and it goes down from there. So it's that spiritual wickedness is happening in those realms, but it manifests here in the earth, and we're seeing the impact of it. We start to see the impact of it, we feel the impact of it. So he's letting us know that our battle's not just against flesh and blood, even though we're down here going through all kinds of things. You see over the past weekend, it was shootings all over the place.
Yeah.
It was shootings all over the place, and you look at what's going on. So you see the flesh and blood. Yeah, there was somebody that had a gun and they wouldn't pull the trigger. But when you see things happening like that, we know that it's something higher that's going on. So in the spiritual realm, there's something that's taking place that's coming down to be able to put those influences in people's minds, into even with the governments. You can see how they mold different narratives to go a certain way. Okay, we want this to happen. We want the people to respond like this, so we're going to put this in place. We're going to put this in the media. So all these things are working together. But for us, we're just at home, at our job, we're just, encountering things on a day-to-day basis. But the word is telling us our battle is not just against flesh and blood. It's against these things that are going on. So that's why we have to make our requests known to the Most High. We have to rise above what's going on and make our requests known to the Most High and deal on that level of authority in that realm. So we have to reach him on that realm because it's something spiritual that's happening, and then he can answer. So we saw with Daniel that Daniel was like, our people was going through this, going through that. He went to the heavens to be able to get an answer for what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, when I see them marching for Black Lives Matter and the police brutality, to me, it takes me to the curses, the poverty that we go through. I mean, it's just like scripted, really, in Deuteronomy 28. So is all that going to do any good? Black Lives Matter, because we're still in captivity.
We are. And until we return back, so that's like so it's like a battling with flesh and blood. It's like thinking that if I go to this flesh man, if I stand outside the White House, if I do these things, then this flesh man is going to move some kind of laws and it's going to change our situation.
I don't believe it.
It's not. The situation is spiritual that we're in. So it's so the battle's not against flesh and blood. We have to return. So that's why Daniel was so wise in his prayer, because he acknowledged that, okay, I'm here in Babylon, I'm here in this situation, but I know why this is happening. I know that our people
exactly.
I know our people have, so we have to return to you and you'll return to us. So that's the portion that we have to get our people to see, to come out of just seeing the earthly realm, just seeing earthly things. And I don't know if we went to that verse or not, but it talked about dealing with just the earthly things, seeing it from that perspective. But we have to be risen up to see from the perspective of the Most High and what's going on in that realm. And I mean, we don't have to go far to see it, just in our scriptures, like you said, just in the word. if we read to see the situation while we're here, it's clear. You don't have to go deep out into the whatever to figure it out. It's right in our word. But our people can't see it because of blindness.
Well, the people I've tried to witness to, they think I'm on a cult, I'm crazy. It's like, you can pray I'm not saying prayer won't help, but they're wondering why this and why that. Well, it's right there in Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
It's right there. And when I was a Christian, I thankfully I'm not anymore, but now I understand so much that I didn't understand then. It's just, well, thanks. That helps a whole lot.
I'm glad. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yeah, that blindness.
I wouldn't be out there marching. For one thing, but I don't think that's going to help. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to play out. We have to watch and see how things play out. How do
you feel about that? Do you think that all of us getting killed, I guess we all Hebrews of some sort. The 1/3, wait a minute, 2/3 remnant, the remnant. Okay, there's only going to be a remnant. So do you think some of these deaths are possibly him taking some of them away already?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think that definitely plays a part in it. That he's going to wipe out. He's going to wipe out. A lot of our people are going to be wiped out because we won't return. It's because even though a person may not be, say our people are being killed innocently in the streets, they're innocent of the crime that they weren't committing any crimes according to this world, but before the courts of the Most High are guilty. You know what I mean? So while you may be innocent in this world, innocent to not committing any of these crimes in the earth, but still have not repented to the Most High to return to his ways, so then you're still guilty. So it's still a righteous. So the world's judgment is unrighteous, but the Most High used the unrighteous world system to judge you righteously based on his
He
level
can do what he want to do.
Right.
Okay. Right. Thank you, sweetie.
Hallelujah. Thank you for your
Hallelujah.
question. Hallelujah. Toy, were you gonna did you have anything that you wanted to I see you unmute.
Yeah, I had took so many notes, so my thoughts are like jumping from scripture to scripture. But one thing that like I guess I had a little aha moment when you were talking about I think from 2 Corinthians standing in truth
Mm-hmm.
and dealing with battles against flesh and wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
When I was listening to that, I thought about how a lot of people want to do things out of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
So when Eve was tempted to eat the apple to get more wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
like people are looking for shortcuts nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And what's convincing them is the idea of letting things be done fast, letting things be convenient, having everything in one place. And what really breaks my heart is some of these people are are falling for it, especially with stuff like during this virus, vaccines, being microchipped,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of this stuff that is being promoted as smart or convenient,
Yeah.
it's really exalting itself against the Most High.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like people have blinders on as far as that. They're like, wow, they're not standing
Mm-hmm.
in truth. It's like their heads are being turned away for this quote unquote convenient mechanism or whatever you want to call it. And if we're not focused and standing,
Mm-hmm.
we are going to be really blindsided about a lot, blindsided over a lot of these things
Yeah.
that are coming out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it's that wisdom of the world, that wisdom, things that look convenient, it look wise, it looks like it makes sense. Just from a worldly, from our own personal, from our flesh, basically from our own perspective. But we're not seeing it from the Most High's perspective, how the impact, we're not perceiving in the spirit what's really behind it. We talked about how the word discerns the thoughts and intentions of the man of heart, and it divides all those things. Like the word will dig right into all those things, and it'll expose it. It'll show you what's behind it, why we think it's good, but why it's not really good. Just like you said, just like Eve in the garden, like she couldn't discern why this tree of good and evil. She couldn't figure out why it wasn't good for her, so she went ahead and partook of it. So that's what if we're not, like you said, standing in the truth, if we're not girded in, if we don't have it and have that ruach, that spirit in us to discern through things, then you'll end up out there taking things in your body that are not going to that are not good. That's how people will end up with, people, we deal with stuff like the mark of the beast, saying that we're going to be marked. It's a mindset. It's a seal that's already, it's a seal that if you're not already sealed with the word and sealed with the truth, then you're already going to be under the mark of the beast. You're already there. So it doesn't matter what, if it's a chip or it doesn't matter what it actually is. But if you have the seal of the Most High, if you have his ruach and you have his mind, then you'll be able to navigate throughout this world and know what's for you and what's not for you. But if we don't, and you're marked with the thought process or the wisdom of this world, then you're going to fall right into all the traps and all the holes. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and those like I said, those traps, like when people are falling for those things, they don't initially see it as a trap. To them, in their mind, they thinking they're making a good decision. Right.
Right. That's the tricky part. That's the deceptive part. Like you think, because you see the good in it. Like Eve, she thought that she saw that it would be good for wisdom. Like it looked pleasant. It made sense. And that is why, the Most High said that he will confound the wisdom of this world. So we have to, that's why they're standing firm. We have to stand firm in him. We have to trust in him and stay in that place behind his shield in his house. Because all the shield, when you look at it, we're really inside his house. You know, so if you're in a house with the Father, then you can see, because the Father's talking to you and he's showing you, just like your earthly father can show you, you know, this, that, to point things out to you, you know, because you're in his house, you're under his protection, under his guidance. But when we're outside of that, then we come, you know, you outside with your friends and you're going to get your friends type wisdom, you know, that's from somebody that's on your level. They can't see, you know, above that. But yeah, I think that's the trickiest thing, is things that we think are good. It's never the thing. I mean, we can clearly see a lot of times the things that are bad, but it's the things that are good, otherwise good, based on our own sight. That's really the tricky thing. You know, that's why we have to. That's the thing that the enemy's going to try to throw that trap at our feet and trip us up.
Oh man, it's a trip. Like over time I find out more and more stuff, because I'm just really into getting more knowledge, and it's really sad the mechanisms that the enemy is using causes damage later on, or it'll be like the evil in it is like in plain sight, but people don't get it.
Yeah.
No discernment.
Later on.
Yeah.
Like the stuff, like, I mean, when you, like, if you really look at it through the Most High's perspective, so much stuff that we do has been slowly killing us for years. Like now they're speeding it up. But you know, stuff like a microwave, you know, is waves in it that deteriorates us. You know what I mean? Or stuff like how many people die of a car accident, and we think, you know, a car is a good thing to us, but man decided to make it dangerous when it didn't have to be dangerous, you know. So just so many things, everyday things, the things that we eat, we put in our body. You know, you got deodorants that have toxins in it that, you know, 20 years from now you're going to have cancer, breast cancer, or, you know, so it's like you don't see the manifestation of these things till way later down the line, you know, but it all goes back to, so this is the spiritual wickedness in high places. So it all goes back to, most of these things tie back to the God of money, the God of, you know, so it plays into us. We do things, like you said, for our convenience. You know, it's things that, okay, this looks good, this is convenient, this is easier, this is quicker, this is, you know, it solves a problem. So we consume all these things, but people make these things. So we're going after our own wisdom and our own, one of the things convenient, but then there's somebody that's out there making it. There's an industry that's out there making all kinds of things that are killing us, and they don't care because they're serving a God of money. You know, that's what it says, you can't serve two masters. You can't serve money, this God of money, and serve the Most High. There's going to be a conflict. You know, so this world is revolving around the God of money right now. It's revolving around, so all the industries, the medical industries deals with money. They don't want to heal people. They don't want people healed. They want pharmaceuticals to keep people in a place of death, because it's about money. So this is what it goes back to, the spiritual wickedness in high places. You know, so everyday things is we're just buying things that are destroying us, and we don't know it because we're not seeking wisdom from the Most High. Then on high levels, there's a God that's being served, and we're ended up the sacrifice that's being made to that God by the people that are serving. You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And regarding the money, like, there are problems actually being created and then a solution to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
They're making money on both sides.
Oh yeah. They've got the whole thing covered. That's why the Most High, you know, we read Revelation, we'll talk about what's going to happen to this system, what's going to happen to Babylon, and how he's going to, you know, bringing things back. You know, he sees the destruction. So it's like, even though our people are in this position because of our sins, the system is going to be judged for their role, you know, for their for what they've gone above and beyond is going to be judged, you know. So that's why he says, come out from the system, wake up and withdraw your part in the system. To whatever degree that you're attached to these things, to whatever degree you're a part of these things, come out of that. Come out of those things and wash your hands from it so that you can be made clean and righteous, and let me clothe you and clean that area so that, you know, you're put in a safe place so that you're not going to be destroyed along with, you know, what's going on. Because he doesn't desire that we go down with their judgment, you know, but if we're not being wise and we're not, you know, staying in a safe place, then we're going to end up by default falling into the same judgment, you know, that the rest of the nation is going to fall into.
Mm.
Mm.
It's just crazy. Like, I don't know. He told us this. He gave us the answer
Yeah,
beforehand.
he did.
Mm.
Yeah, he did.
He's
Right.
like,
Before
this is the answer. And people still will choose their own method.
I know. Sister, what do you think about now? I don't know anything about the Amish, but they're the closest people I've observed that really came out of the world, so to speak, quote, quote. I don't know anything about their religion. But how could we possibly actually come out when we have to live in it? Somebody help me out.
To the best, because in some situations you can't physically, you know, come out, but to the degree that you can come out. For example,
I don't do things I used to do. I mean, maybe that's some of it. Is that it?
I mean, to the degree, and it's something that he continues to unveil to us, like on a simple, like look at just the day to day. And for me, like one of the things that he's dealt with me on is my deal with my health, is deal with my diet and stuff. So
Yeah,
you know,
I'm still struggling with that.
yeah, it's a strong, you know, that's a stronghold. It's a something that we've been entangled with most of our lives. So you know, that's something that he's dealt with me on how to come out of the system of death when it comes to, you know, what I put in my body. You know, so day by day, week by week, you know, month by month, year by year, like you start revealing things to me. Okay, you need to stop putting this in your body. You know, like I eat whole food, plant-based diet or whatever. You know, you started showing me about sugar, showing me about meat, showing me about dairy, different things. You know, and, you know, one by one, I started taking those things out of my diet. You know, so that's one way of coming out. So now, you started showing me other things, like, okay, the deodorant that you're using, you know, so the laundry detergent that you're using, you know, so these are just everyday practical things, but he'll start to show you, okay, these things are
not good for us.
Yeah, they're not beneficial. And it's not, so now when we're sick, we end up at the mercy of, you know, pharmaceuticals. And now
That's not a beer, that's a water, sparkling water.
That's funny. But yeah, he starts to show us one by one what things you know, to come, so that now we're coming out of this. So now we can say we've come out from the pharmaceutical industry, and we're not at the mercy of doctors and at the mercy of medications and all those things. And we've come out of that. So we've come out on that end, you know. So it's like, so it's each one of the systems we have to learn how to come out of. You know, so like if you have children, you maybe want to homeschool your children instead of sending them to public school.
If I had minor children, I would definitely do that.
Yeah.
But my grandson is 28, so
yeah.
I missed out on all that. I wish I had been in the truth, you know, when they were small. But nobody knew anything about Yahusha. I never heard. In fact, I didn't even know it was an Old Testament.
Oh yeah.
A Torah. I said, you know what? I'm gonna buy me one of them one day. A Torah.
Mm-hmm.
Not even realizing that it was the first 5 books of the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Not a clue.
That's something else.
Baptist.
Yep.
Yep. Same here.
Carrying around the Bible our whole lives and not really understanding it.
Nope.
Yeah.
And how so many names were changed, like just following with the scriptures with you. I saw the link at the top for Bible Hub.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually pulled it up, and I learned a while ago, like the names were changed, but I was like, wow, Yahukanan and all this. I didn't know that. We always thought it was John.
Well, you know, the language is you know, the scriptures were written in the Hebrew language, the Hebrew people, and the significance of it is that Hebrew has meaning. It has, you know, so Hebrew is different from our languages today, it has meaning to it. You know what I mean? And we haven't really I haven't gone too far into it in these sessions here. But when you really break down the words, the Hebrew words, like it has such meaning and depth to it, and it kind of paints a picture, you know. So when you have those understandings, when you're reading the word, when you're reading, you know, the scriptures, it brings things more to life. You know what I mean? So it gives more understanding to it. It's like, oh, you know, it brings a clarity, you know, so there's a richness to it that we've just missed out on, you know, not understanding what the, you know, the core of the language. You know, we've got to translate into English and then all kinds of different translations in between the English. So,
well, how did you choose your Hebrew name?
So it took a while, but the name, for me, it was having to do with my purpose and my meaning. So Yarah is the root word of Torah. It's one of the root words of Torah, and it has to do with shooting the arrow. It has to do with water flowing, pointing, shooting the arrow in a direction. So it's kind of like something pointing in a direction.
Research. You research that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, kind of connected to my purpose, to point to his word, to point to his way, to you know, and it has other meanings to it, but it came back to, you know, who am I, and what does he call me to do?
And daughter of Yah.
Mm-hmm, daughter of Yah. Yep, BatYah. So, you know, he leads people in different ways. Some people's regular name is Hebrew already, you know, and the person just keeps that. Or maybe somebody that you relate to in the scriptures. You know, he leads us in different ways. You know, just how to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But
awesome teaching. Thank you.
Hallelujah. Thank y'all for being on and sticking on. With some others on earlier, they had to jump off, and there was a lot of people texting me, calling me, saying they had to do other things and work tonight. So, but I'm glad that we got to dialogue some. I kind of hate it when I was doing a whole lot of talking and don't get to stop and dialogue. So I'm glad that we got to get a little bit in at the end here. So hallelujah. But I'm gonna pray us out, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. The recording again, it'll be in the group. It'll be
what did you mean by next week will be the last? Are you stopping?
Well, last week will be the last part of this series on this
series. Oh, okay. That's scary.
The last part. That'll be the last part of this series here. And then the week after that, I'll probably be taking a break that week, and then we'll pick back up on you know, and I'll figure out what direction we're going from there. But yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So it'll just be the end of the series.
Okay.
Yep. Like I said, if you guys have any feedback, any thoughts, anything that you want to you know, interested in going deeper into, just hit me up and let me know.
Okay, we'll do.
All right. I'm gonna pray us out and close out. So, hallelujah. Abba Yah, we thank you. I thank you, Father. Thank you for this time. Thank you for your word, Father. I thank you that everything that we need is in your word, Father, that you've given us your spirit, that you've given us your word. You lead us and guide our footsteps, Father. You said that your word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path, that you lead us and guide us according to your way, Father. Thank you that you continue to just pour out your Ruach, Father, to lead us and guide us in our day-to-day lives, Father. Let your word be like that double-edged sword, Father, just showing us the intentions of our hearts, showing us the intentions of those around us, Father, so that we can have clear eyes and clear discernment and understanding on how to perceive the things happening in our day-to-day life, Father. I thank you, Father, that you continue that your word is a seed, and that these seeds that are planted in our heart, as we read through your word, the seeds have been planted in our spirit, in our heart, that it'll find fertile ground within us, Father, and that it'll continue to take root in us and grow, Father, so that we can bear the fruit of your spirit, bear the fruit of your Ruach, Father, so that we can be your vessels on this earth, Father. I thank you for those who are on this call tonight, Father. I thank you for Ima Joanne. I thank you for Tori, Father, for doing through this call, Father. I thank you for their questions and their feedback, Father, that you will see the zeal of their hearts, Father, that you will meet them right where they are, Father, and feed them, Father. Feed them, fill them, feed them what they need in this season of of their life, Father, as your sheep, Father, that you would be able to shepherd them, Father, so that they can take deeper root, Father, and they can grow and bear more fruit, Father, in you. So I thank you for their lives, Father. I thank you for each person that got on this call tonight, Father, that you would, that your word, that whatever word you drop into their spirit, into their ruach, Father, that it will take root in them, Father, and that you will follow them through by your ruach, Father, and follow them into their situations, Father. Those who hear the replay of this video, Father, those who wanted to be on and couldn't be on, Father, I thank you that this word will take root in season, Father. I know that this word is in season for us right now, Father. It's important for us to be girded up in your truth, girded up and rightly clothed and geared up for what we're facing in this world right now, Father. So I thank you, Father, that you are equipping us. I thank you that you'll continue to equip us in our minds, in our ruachs, continue to purge us and make our hearts right before you, Father. Give us guidance and direction on the way that you will have us to go, Father. We thank you, Father. We thank you for your spirit that you poured out on us, Father. We thank you for your son, Father, for the sacrifice that Yahusha has made, Father. I thank you that he serves at your right hand, Father, and that we are able to have access to your kingdom, access to your house, Father. We thank you. Be a refuge and a shield around us, Father, as we go throughout the rest of this week. Be a refuge and a shield and a guide to us, Father, as we go throughout our lives, Father. We thank you. We humble ourselves. We submit ourselves to you and to your word, Father. We give you praise and honor. In the name of your son, Yahushua Mashiach, we pray and thank you. Amen and hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
All right.